Business. Letters of people who wrote in the world.
Fred, we're talking now. Fred, you need to run away. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get today's meeting going. I want to thank you all for being in the listening session. Not here making policy decisions or anything. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to kind of set the stage here.
Yeah, thank you for everybody for coming. And
all right, would you guys mind using the microphone? We do have people on the Zoom. They won't be able to hear you. So sorry.
I also wanted to thank Councilmember Richards for standing in for me last time when I was out of town. So I thought what we would do today is we're going to try to focus on the state or status of the current police station. And so I thought what we would do is first we have some letters. Dave and I asked everybody who went on the tour to feel free to email us comments, and we have printed out copies of, I think, the 4 letters that we have received so far. They're over here on the table. If you're interested and would like a copy, feel free to come get one. And then I thought we would go around the room and check on Zoom to hear from people that went on the tour. So sort of firsthand comments if you'd like to say something, or you don't feel obligated to say something. And then I thought we would go around the room again and hear from people who did not go on the tour or who have other sort of comments related to the project. And then after we sort of get all that out of the way, we have a question for you at the end of the meeting, which we'll have a short discussion about. So that's what we'd like to do. And maybe it would be easier if we started on Zoom.
So we currently have one attendee on Zoom, Tim Toomey. somebody from the audience just said, "Who's that guy?" And I think it was Tim's wife. So Tim, I don't know, the council member is wondering, do you want to, is there any comments you want to make from Zoom land? Let me see, I might need to ask you, promote the panelist. All right, go for it, Tim. Tim, you can unmute yourself now.
He's texting Nancy to see how to do that.
Okay. All right. It looks like not then.
Okay, so why don't we first go around the room? I see a lot of familiar faces from a few Fridays ago. So we'll go around the room and first hear from the people that went on the tour, and then we'll go around the room again and hear from everyone. So I see Bud and Andy, and again, you're under no obligation.
Thank you. I thought if I could just go quickly through my notes from the tour, if that would be helpful. I mean, just beginning in the lobby area, it often has to be used for interviews, which gives you no privacy at all, no security. The door into the station proper looks like my granddaughter could probably break it down if she worked on it. Property and evidence storage areas are not adequately secured or ventilated. Ventilation all seems to be a process if you're storing and processing drugs, particularly fentanyl these days. Another safety issue, and all of these, some of these are safety issues for the officers. Another safety issue is the back parking lot, where if people who have been apprehended are brought in, they're brought into a completely open public space. Again, no security there, which seems a dangerous situation for everybody. No real holding cells for people in custody. I've watched a lot of Gunsmoke and Andy Griffith, and I know what a holding cell's kind of supposed to look like, and there's just nothing like that there. No good handicap access. Throughout, everything seemed very cramped. Narrow hallways, small rooms, crowded locker rooms. The plumbing and electrical all looks like it was put in over 50 years ago and just needs to be replaced. And the overall impression I got was just kind of that it's kind of a makeshift enterprise there, that the police are doing all they can in the space they have, and it's just not really adequate.
I agree, Bud. I mean, it was very disturbing to see such a police station anywhere, but for it to be in Carmel-by-the-Sea was just blew me away. And I guess the first question that came to my mind is, why was it neglected for so long? You know, I've asked this at other meetings, and I've never gotten an answer to that question. I know money has probably been allocated for updating and refurbishing whatever, and I'd like to know where that money is. Yes, indeed, we need to fix it, but I don't know the price tag of $30 million or $20 million. For me, that's like funny money. I don't know where we would get that money. I think a lot of money has already been spent unnecessarily. I think there's been plans that have been made for to update it and to expand it years past. I'd like to know where those plans are. I have a lot of questions, but something does need to be fixed.
Thank you. I too attended the tour, and I was very impressed that the police department works under such horrid conditions. Between the air and the safety, there's no fixing either one of those. I was also happy there were so many people on the tour, And the piece of paper you gave me, I just put a big F on it for fail, because I saw no redeeming factors except the humans working in there very hard, very diligently, with the worst air. I wouldn't want to be in there. It's not safe, physically or for your health. And I was fortunate enough to go on the tour to Salinas. And they happen to be, I believe, 23 square miles, so they are bigger than we are. And I believe they have a different demographics than we do. Well, I know they do. So going through there, and it's apples and oranges. And I realize that I'm not comparing Salinas with New York City Police Department. I've been in the LA Police Department. I've been in San Diego Police Departments. And we don't compare with them. But yet we don't compare with anybody except some place that's so remote and 100 people. And we're not remote. We're small, but we're geographically desirable. We are not remote. And Piedmont on the news today have cameras for all the cars that come in and out, and they have caught so many bad people that way. Piedmont is a small area. So the police department in Salinas, and I wish everyone had gone. There were only 2 of us to the bitter end, Cindy Lloyd and myself. It was almost 4 o'clock. People kept kind of going off. They had other things to do. I thought, I've come this far, I'm staying to the bitter end. On a Friday night, raining, driving back to Carmel. They were so impressive. And one of the things that was so impressive is their gun control. Before they walk into a room with a suspect or anyone, they lock their gun outside in a safe on the wall. So no one can, I never saw a safe you could put a gun in. I don't know where they put them because anybody could grab them. The gun control was amazing, and you do have bad people. Their car safety was amazing. Even if you only have 3 cars, our cars are a joke. Anybody could take a baseball bat and just break all the windows. The car safety, the air safety, their locker room safety. They have a locker room, co-ed, and it's adjacent to the gym. And the gym, there's no wall between them. The lockers face one way. And the gym was donated, all of the equipment, by the retiree fund. The Salinas didn't pay for it. But the lockers that they give the police women and men, they have a bench, but underneath you put your wet boots in, and it dries them out, and it circulates the air so your sweaty clothes do not smell the place up. No, we don't have a locker room, but just the detail of a police station from the human side, and not even counting the criminal aspect of it. But we have to have a new building. There's no way you can work in that present site safely. Physical safety. I don't even want to go there to get my paper signed off. No, because it's just not and there's bad people. We are not remote. People keep thinking that we're so far away. They come from miles and miles every weekend. So we're not remote and small, yes. So I see nothing that they could do to that to make it work. They can't, those people are on top of each other. The air is defunct, it smells, it's ugly, and it's not feasible. But now that's Cindy Lloyd and I. She wrote a letter. I didn't. I chose to come today as a person that was there. And we did have city officials there besides Cindy and I to the bitter end. So I was happy that they made that happen. So that's my impression of the differences.
That pretty well wraps it up. I was on the tour just of our Carmel-by-the-Sea one. I wasn't able to see Salinas. But one of the things that we haven't really addressed fully was the ADA requirements. I was just sort of stunned, and not pointing fingers at anyone, but literally that we can kind of get by all these years without really having. I don't know how people get into that facility. I guess they bring them around to the back door and have them come in, but you can't gain too much weight if you're walking through those corridors. They're very, very narrow. So that was a big concern to me for everybody's reason, and also the access to the gun lockers, the security access for the officers as they come in off duty, or I guess that's how they use it, off duty and on duty is how they use that thing. Those were two things that were really, and also, it wasn't until I left the tour that I realized, well, what do they do if they have to remand people? You know, and then you've addressed that there is no detention cell. So I realized we have good coordination with Monterey and the jails that are available there, but we need some help.
Yeah, we toured the Carmel facility. I'd never been past the front desk to get my parking stickers for the last 40 years, but we definitely need a new building. It's a menace. It insults the people that work there. They're a tribute to their dedication that they show up every day. We don't have a lot of crime here, thank God, and thank the police department. But not fixing that building would be like canceling your insurance because you just passed your physical. There'll be days that we need it. We need everything to work well, and I wouldn't count on it coming out of that building. I think the Carmel employees deserve a professional workspace. They're professionals. We count on them. If I operated a business in that building, I am positive the city would shut me down, 100%. I'd probably have been sued 55 times. And I agree with you, it's pretty astonishing that we've gotten through this. I think the reason that it's been kicked down, the can kicked down the road so many times, is that there haven't been any consequences. But it's just a matter of time. And if it's the wrong accident by the wrong person, $20 million will cost us every bit of that, and it won't build us a new police station. We'll just have a $20 million lawsuit or settlement. So I think the only issue is financing and then logistics. You know, how do you do it? I don't think that building can be fixed, certainly not while people work in it. And I don't think it's all that repairable anyway. I think it's a replacement strategy with temporary facilities in trailers or whatnot. Maybe the public works could be somewhere else. I don't know if space is an issue, but that's just logistics. I strongly endorse, and my wife had as well, that we've got to provide a professional police facility. The city deserves it. The employees deserve it.
I have a little story. I was there on the first tour. My mother-in-law moved here as a teenager in 1925 from Paradise, and she never left. She'd tell stories of packed dirt streets and boardwalks and the policemen on horseback. In her recounting, everyone admired Chief England and then Chiefs Norton and Clawman for their support of the village. 100 years later, we're fortunate to still have such a community-minded police team. And now I award them the grand prize for recycle, reuse, and repurpose. Why? Because that station's building demands creativity for every use in every function. You've already heard most of this, but they recycled a restroom into the soundproof interview room. They repurposed a closet as the property lockup. They're reusing the old main entrance for evidence processing, IT central, and secure storage. I thought of too many descriptive words for this building, but I decided you would think I was exaggerating. The space is simply inefficient, unsafe, haphazard, unhealthy, and disrespectful. Ventilation is non-existent, yet in here they must process drugs, perhaps fentanyl, they said, and smelly abandoned possessions. The team is breathing here all their shift, with ventilation inadequate even for a generic office. 911 dispatch monitors don't fit in the available counter space. The main secure entrance really is a Dutch door like at my house. The vehicle entrance, as you've heard, is not safe for officers or their passengers. They have been ambushed when they arrive in the unsecured drop-off area. Yeah, that does happen in Carmel. Then they go from the police car to a tiny room for processing. That room is so small that when someone becomes unruly, the officers are hamstrung in their options for everyone's safety. The break room is the training room, is the let's have a talk room, each with its own unmet needs. Security cameras? What are those? Don't get me started on the locker rooms and the equipment facilities. Astoundingly, police and public works have been able to jury-rig fixes to meet codes for the last 50 years. But it appears impossible to make the building useful for future needs and to meet new codes, at least without renovation. So, we ask much of our police team and ought to show our respect and gratitude. They deserve functional space in which to continue to serve safely and efficiently. Today, it is as if we don't care about their working conditions, yet still expect their best.
My husband and I went to the tour of the Carmel Police Department, mostly because we just wanted to see what was behind all those walls. And we were kind of shocked at how analog the whole facility is. And it's time for, Carmel has made use of technology with the cameras at every access and egress point so we can catch criminals that way. But Luddites seem to be approving the police department. So it's time to join the 21st century. It's time to make room for technology and give room to the officers who are keeping us safe. And I can't imagine why this is even a question. It wouldn't be a question in any of our own homes. We wouldn't live like that. Why do we accept that for our police department? It's time. It's time to bite the bullet and improve that space.
Great comments. I'd like to thank David and William O'Neill, some friends of mine who did an incredible statement. I think it was really accurate. If you haven't read it, you probably should. It's handout. I sort of have been in the building several times when I do ride-alongs, but I sort of see this like if we were to buy a 4,000 square foot house with or 1,600 square foot house and a 4,000 square foot lot, and we decide we need a home office and another restroom or another bathroom, that instead of just building an ADU with those facilities, we buy the two adjoining lots and start combining the whole thing to build a much bigger house when that's not what we need. And I think building a brand new police station at Vista Lobos is about equivalent to that. I think it's entirely possible, and two other architects apparently previously said this, and Andy made a good statement. We'd like to see those plans that those architects came up with. I think it's clearly a remodel, and that's not easy, but I think there's plenty of space, and David and William made a pretty good case for it in here. So I think it's a remodel situation, not a brand new police station, and I'm totally confident all the people in this room and some other smart people can figure out how to finance it.
I don't want to repeat anything that's already been said. I did have an opportunity, along with my husband Wayne, to go to the Salinas police station as well. And I went there thinking that I was going to be totally wowed and impressed, and I really wasn't. And I think Carmel can do a much better job and be much more efficient in the square footage and the feeling of the building. The buildings are important not only for the police and the staff, but the visitors who come there also should not be agitated by the poor choice of colors, lighting, inhospitable surroundings. So I think there's a way to create the structure that is appropriate for our town, but also eliminate the really negative things that I saw in Salinas.
I'm Wayne Moon, otherwise known as Shirley's husband. I went on the tour and I was left with a couple of impressions. One was what we have now in the city is an old facility, and old facilities take a lot of upkeep and maintenance, and I don't think it's all been provided. The facility over in Salinas, I thought was interesting. It was too large, many single-purpose rooms. So I think there's some design issues here that aren't in the purview of this group, I guess. But it does have to be done if there's going to be a new facility of some sort.
Yeah, so now I think, as I stated earlier, we'd like to hear from people who didn't go or people that didn't feel comfortable talking the first time, and we'll just sort of send the mic around the room again.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Potter, Chip, Brandon, members of the City Council, Jeff. Thank you so much for having this listening session tonight. As proud residents and dedicated volunteers serving as Carmel CERT Community Emergency Response Team captains, we are honored to stand before you today to express our strong support for the proposed police station project. The decision before us, whether to build a new police station or remodel the existing one, is a pivotal one that will have a profound impact on the safety, well-being, and resilience of our community for years to come. After careful consideration and thorough evaluation of both options, it's a clear choice to my co-captain and I that investing in a new one is not just a prudent choice, but a necessary one. Our current police station, while steeped in history, is no longer equipped to meet the evolving needs of our law enforcement officers, dispatchers, and dedicated volunteers like our CERT team. Its aging infrastructure, limited space, and outdated facilities pose significant challenges that hinder the efficiency, effectiveness, and morale of those who serve and protect our community. In our role as CERT volunteers, we actively engage with all members of our excellent Carmel police staff, and it pains us to witness them administer the requirements of their jobs in a substandard, cramped, dark, and frankly dangerous facility. With severely limited space at the police station, our CERT emergency deployments are often activated and managed out of parking lots, or if we can, borrow space that is not being used at Vista Lobos. It is far from ideal and has a negative impact on emergency response and effectiveness, with police command and supplies scattered at multiple locations.
Thanks, Wanda. A new police station offers us the opportunity to address these critical shortcomings head-on. It will provide modern, state-of-the-art facilities that are designed to support the essential functions of law enforcement of the 21st century. From enhanced workspace for officers and dispatchers, to improved training facilities and an operation command space for volunteers like our CERT team. A new police station will empower us to serve our public safety personnel and protect our community. Furthermore, investing in a new police station further demonstrates our commitment to prioritizing public safety and ensuring the resilience of our community in the face of emerging challenges of threats. It sends a powerful message that we value the safety and the security of all residents and visitors and are willing to take the proactive steps to safeguard our collective well-being. In closing, we urge the City Council and decision makers to seize this opportunity to invest in our community's future by approving the construction of a new police station. Let us come together to support our law enforcement officers, our dispatchers, and our volunteers who work tirelessly to keep us safe each day. Together, we can build a safer, stronger, and more resilient community for generations to come. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Anybody else?
A lady came
in. Thank you very much. I'm sorry to be late. I was sorting through my grandfather's books, about 16 boxes of them that have been sitting in my brother's garage for 50 years, but I got the job done, and now I'm here. As you probably well know, my name is Cindy Lloyd. That's not what you probably well know. My name is Cindy Lloyd. You probably well know that my position on the police department is well dependent upon the fact that I was lucky enough to go through the police department in Carmel and on tour and see firsthand the deficiencies in the police department as it stands now. In fact, to use an old expression from England, I was gobsmacked. It was so much worse than I could imagine. The door leading from the entry area into the back part of the police department is just a Dutch door. It's just a kind of like a residential door. And I don't know what kind of security there is there. That's just one example. And then I learned that they have to do interviews in that entry area, so there is no privacy, and they have multiple people coming and going. That's kind of a shocking thing to find out. And then when we got inside, I was really underimpressed by how narrow the hallways were. And I'm sure that it was built to code at the time it was built, but now, whether people are taller, bigger, wider, I don't know, but it felt very, very cramped to me. And then Paul Tomasi was kind enough to take us around and show us the modifications that have been made over the years. And when we learned that they had adapted a second bathroom to first one use and then another use, and this just went on and on and on. And it became very clear to me. Then we went downstairs and could see dripping water, and I really don't have to carry on except that. It became clear to me that we need a new police station. How it's going to be done, where it's going to be done, I'm not privy to, nor would I even suggest where I think it might be done, because I'm not a contractor, and there are a lot of things to consider. And I know people are thinking, oh, well, just remodel what's there. I think you'd have to tear it down to the slab, but that's just me. And then we were fortunate enough also to see Public Works, which isn't any better. So while the police department really does need a remodel, Public Works, its sister, sitting on the same place, needs one too. Then, thanks to our mayor, who nicely carpooled with me and drove me to Salinas in the driving rain, I could see the police department in Salinas, and there is no comparison. The first thing I asked the sergeant who was giving us the tour is, how many square miles does Salinas take care of? And he said, when he figured it out, 26. So of course it's bigger. And they have a different population there, different problems, but that's not to say we don't have problems in Carmel, because we do. We just don't read about it, we don't know about it, but it exists. However, it was eye-opening seeing the state-of-the-art police station that is still very young. And what I got out of those two tours was the message is, in Salinas, they care about everybody who works in their police department, and the message in Carmel is we don't. We just patch it together. For many years, I was a nurse at Community Hospital, and every time I went to work, I knew I was valued because I walked into a door, into a building that was fresh and adapted to the purposes for which we nurses needed to practice our work. And I would just hope that however the police department can be made new, and I would love to see it brand new from the ground up, but I don't know how that's going to happen. We need to honor our police department and everybody else who works in that police department and people who walk in the door. So I'm a big proponent for a new police department, and let's get behind a plan, whatever plan can be brought up, and I'm certainly behind Paul Tomasi and everybody who works there. So thank you very much.
Yes, as I've said before in these sessions, I was a volunteer in policing, so I've seen behind closed doors of the facility, and am definitely in support of a new facility, refreshed, reworked, re-envisioned, etc. I think it's pretty fundamentally clear that that needs to happen. Now, how we go about that, there needs to be creative people in the construction and layout and design field to look at the alternatives in how we choose to approach that. Now, whether it is, as some have discussed, a major remodel or a rebuild, tear down and rebuild with all of what that means, again, I think it's going to come down to people who know design, who know layout, who know options that can be considered as a part of a remodel. Because that's, to me, I can't see that as a possibility, but others with that kind of skill set and background might be able to. So I'm open and receptive to whatever comes next in the planning and considerations that we have moving forward.
Can I go now? First of all, Dave, Jeff, Chip, Brandon, thank you for putting this on. I mean, this public input and having these discussions, I think is hugely important. My name's Graham Robertson, 59-year resident of Carmel. I don't want to be redundant, so I would agree with what Wanda, Scott, Cindy, Dale, and everyone else has said. We need a new police station, remodeled, demolished, or in another location as quickly as possible. It's deplorable that Paul Tomasi and the rest of the team work in conditions that they're in. So let's show them. We can say the words, but let's show with action that we need a new police station and put something that's world-class in a world-class community, either remodeled, demolished, or in another location. Thank you.
Anyone else? Do we have any comments on Zoom?
There's one new Zoom person, so you might ask. You want to just ask, correct?
Do we have any comments on Zoom like that?
I don't see anybody else. Tim Toomey's still on there. We have one other guest on Zoom on a phone. The person on the phone, if you'd like to speak, you can hit *6 and it'll raise your hand if you'd like to speak, but I'm not seeing any hands go up. So I think, Councilmember Barrett, I think you're clear to move ahead.
Okay. So thank you everybody for your comments. The next thing I wanted to talk about, I was hoping that we could all talk about, was what should we do next? Back when we first started having these meetings, there was a sort of, and forgive me if my memory is a little sketchy, a significant amount, and we've heard a little bit of that today, a significant amount of discussion about the requirements, the sort of document that we got, and sorry, the necessity of some of the things that were, there was a chart in the back of the document, some of the things that were listed. There's also some confusion or some contention with some of the conclusions that the architects and designers drew from examining sort of the current police station and comparing that to sort of the requirements of a modern police station. So we have sort of talked in the past about whether we should have some version of the sort of design or architect or requirements team come visit and sit here with us in a forum like this, or in a slightly more formal forum, I should say. And the mayor and I are interested in hearing whether you would still like to do that. And part of the reason I think that we're asking is that it's a not insignificant cost to get professionals here. So we're looking at something between, to be just upfront about it, we're looking at something between $10,000 and $20,000 to get some version of the team, some version of the sort of the professional architects and whatnot here, some number of them here, some number of them online. So that's the cost. I can tell you, and this is supposed to be a listening session, not a talking session. I'll violate that here, and I'll tell you that I still think that might be a useful exercise. I think that we have a lot of work to do in terms of understanding what the requirements are. There have been a lot, we've heard some people say, and I'm not picking on you, Wayne. We heard Wayne talk about the Salinas Police Department has a lot of single-use rooms. Can we combine those into multiple-use rooms? And I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know how to answer that question. I don't have any idea. But these are the people that can answer questions. These are the people that can answer questions like that. We heard Dale say that it was a remodel. We heard other people say that there's no way this is a remodel. I don't know how to answer that question. So these are the people that can sort of give us advice as we try to, as the council tries to move forward to the next step and sort of figuring out what to do. So that's the question that the mayor and I would like to ask you, and we would like to hear what you have to say.
I don't mean to answer a question with a question, but my first question would be, how much have we spent so far?
We have a $300,000 contract with the architect, of which we spent less than half. But the same pot of money, it's a capital improvement project. We've used some of that money to make the repairs, the electrical repairs, steel doors that are falling off hinges, that type of thing. The other day we replaced the copper lighting system on the roof. So we still use that pot of money. So it's kind of a moving target, but less than 300,000. We have 3.2 million in, the council set allocated 3.2 million. We still have about 2.8 or 9 or so.
What I would say is, we have this $300,000 contract that, the council has approved that had some sort of, not requirements, but some sort of list of things that the architects were going to do for us. And that was about $300,000 of work. And I believe that included, if I don't remember exactly what was in the schedule, but it included some city meetings, it included one design for a new police station and one design for an extensive remodel of the current police station. So some of these things, some of that, to Bob's point, some of that I believe, and I'm speaking as sort of a representative of the other side of the contract. Some of those things could be sort of massaged around. But this item, that we're talking about, this sort of 15 to 20 or 10 to $20,000 item, is really not a part of the contract, and I would feel uncomfortable sort of eating into that. Maybe uncomfortable isn't the right word, but that would be extra. It's a cost that we didn't anticipate doing, and we were obviously just wrong, and that's unfortunate, but that's. It would definitely be an incremental cost in terms of, and what I would say to that is, if we're looking at a $20 million project, the incremental cost of a $20,000, meeting is 0.1%. So I don't know how to answer that question.
Yep. Done.
I don't know about you, but my experience with consultants is they're like oxygen. They expand to fill all the space available. And I think it's probably a good idea to bring them here with one prerequisite, that you collectively have figured out what sort of a minimum acceptable functionality is, and you're specific about it. We don't need the Salinas Police Department. We don't need that. But we need adequate this, and we need adequate that, and we need confidential this and private that and privacy this and security that, and get real explicit, because otherwise it's just this, well, we could do this and we could do that and we could do and the other with no limits. And I think if you can help the consultants to be most productive by telling them, this is our minimal acceptable deliverable product. In fact, even specify what we want out of this meeting, the deliverable we want out of this meeting is X. Maybe it's not the final design of the building. I'm sure it isn't. But it's not just an open-ended conversation, because they'll certainly provide you with a $10,000 or $20,000 conversation. But whether or not you'll have made any real progress down the field toward getting a new adequate police station is debatable. But I think if you're thoughtful about what functionality we must have, and that'll take some thinking and some work, and but I would do it in the family before you invite in the people with the meter running. It's just my suggestion.
On that thread, I just think the chief has already identified, from a user's point of view, a lot of the problems. He has them clearly identified. That's one of the biggest expenses people go through in the preliminary stages of design, as you know, is identifying those. And then you've got the community making comments on what they feel about that. So there's no way you can really consider going into a project of this size, whether you decide to use it at that location and go up, or however you're going to approach that problem, without having somebody really identify, here's option A, here's option B, here's A and B, and then giving you a budget.
Thank you. I agree with both of them. My concern is if they come, I mean, I think the community, I know nothing about what a police station needs, nothing. So, and I don't know who in this room knows what it needs. The police know what it needs, and the people that build them know what it needs. And those are particular builders. They do not build homes, they don't build hospitals, they build police stations. Or the ones that build hotels do not build police stations. So the ones that build police stations, especially if they've built them in California, know what minimum requirements we need. The community can meet and talk about the landscaping, or the color outside, or how tall the flagpole should be. Those are community things that we're knowledgeable or have opinions on. So bringing them here for them to defend whatever they present doesn't sound fulfilling. But bringing them here, if we have a preliminary plan, not where every toilet goes, as you said, there's something to see. But my bigger concern is after they come, what the hell happens then? Do we have more conversations? As I explained, I heard on the news about one city council. The council member said the biggest problem is we never make decisions. They just kick it to the next meeting and kick it to the next one. So if we spend the money to bring them in, which I'm not opposed to, then what happens? Does the council vote, so let's do a new police station on X property? Or do we have another 3 or 4 years of this? And I enjoy this, but it's not my favorite thing to do in the week, is to kick it down the road and have another meeting. So my question is, if we bring them, what's next? So let's finalize this. We need a new station.
Oh, I know I guess you want to talk, but I would just say that Donna said a lot of the things that were flowing through my brain, and the consensus is the police station is a disaster. I mean, all this discussion just affirms that. And the hard part is, now what are we going to do? And I guess, that goes back to our city administrator, so that we have a plan and a way to evaluate that by professionals. I mean, not so much by people's opinions right now. Thank you.
Real quickly, let me just make a couple comments. First of all, Chief Tomasi is not here, obviously, and he apologizes. Today, his son is the starting pitcher at his last high school baseball game. He plays for Salinas High, so I released him to watch his son. He'll be going on to play at MPC in the fall. But and part of the homework assignment that the council did. And, we're not trying to replicate what they have in a big city or Salinas that has different issues than we do. I think that what Mr. Barron and Mayor Potter and I talk about, and Bob and Brandon and everyone else, is what we need is like a classic F-150 Ford. We don't need a Ferrari. But it has to meet today's contemporary policing needs. And a lot of you have made that that comment. The architect that we hired specializes in police buildings. So again, as with all projects, we're going to guide the architect to make sure they're providing in a schematic design what our needs are, not giving us frills that we don't need that are just going to cost more money. So again, we're always helping guide the architect, and the benefit of having the architect here is not to defend their work. I certainly agree with you. It's to explain how they would schematically go into designing a police department for our city based on our needs, and just those basic spacing models. That how much space does a police department with 30 people in it, it's a third of my staff in one building, really need. So thank you. And again, I apologize for not apologizing for Chief Tomasi before.
I don't need to talk to the microphone. Jeff started talking about.
We have to capture you. Sorry.
Jeff started talking about how much of the $300,000 has been spent and for what, but I'm still confused about the fact we talk about an architect that's done some work, but I don't have an understanding of what that person or that team has already done, so that we know, like, what are the next steps. I mean, I, for one, yes, let's move forward, but what have we spent and for what?
So when we started this series of meetings way back at the beginning, we included a copy of the report that the architects produced. So there is an actual 70, however many page report that the architects have done a lot of this work. And one of the things that I've talked about before at the meeting is somewhere in there is a 1 page or 2 or 3 page, a one spreadsheet list of requirements. And so as we go through this project, that some of you have talked about, the question is, how do we, as a community, get the right list of requirements for us? If I was building a house in Carmel, I'm the property owner, I have a 4,000 square foot lot, I have X number of dollars. There are some things I don't get to have, like I don't get to have a swimming pool, like I may not get to have a home gym. Those are the kinds of questions that we as a community need to answer, because a swimming pool or a gym or a firing range or whatever costs money. And we need to decide, sort of looking at the budget over here and the requirements of the police station over here, and sort of the things that are required, as we talk about interview rooms and holding cells and things like that. There are some things that are required, and there's some things that are sort of optional. And then there are a whole bunch of things that are sort of in the middle. And so we need to, as a community, decide which of those things in that list, we think are appropriate for, a very well-known 3,000 member community with a lot of empty homes and a lot of visitors. And that's a conversation that we need to have, that the architects have taken the first step at having. Like they looked at it from their perspective, and that information is in that document. And from that information, they put, this takes 500 square feet, this takes 800 square feet, this is the total size of the building. Like, that's where we are. We're at sort of a list of requirements and some notion of size. And the next step, which we will hopefully get to after this, is to take that and produce at least one, if not two, designs of, hey, this station will fit on this piece of land or won't fit on this piece of land or whatever. And the architects will take that list of requirements and translate it into a sort of not a building, but sort of the schematic of a building that might fit on a piece of property. So it's important that we get that list of requirements correct. Like, everybody has talked about it, the architects have taken a stab at it, and so one of the things that the architect might be able to do is help us facilitate sort of that question. In addition to sort of defending the work that they've done, when the architect said this room is not sufficient, this is not sufficient. Like, we've heard from a lot of people that, that say, the air quality isn't sufficient. Well, if you want to hear that from the architect, you can hear that from the architect if they came. Like, all those things, those things that are in that document that say the building is substandard, they're the people that wrote it. Like, I didn't write it. Like, I don't know how to do this. So we hired the professional with the $300,000 contract, and they've spent however much to produce that to produce that document. And so having them here, at that cost that I described would be an attempt for them to both justify that document and to help us as a community move forward with the requirements so that we can take the next step.
With the input from the chief.
With the input from the chief. So I should say, to the mayor's point, chief, and while Dave and I did not participate at all, and like that document was just handed to us, I believe the chief had a substantial amount of participation. So the document that, if you go back a couple meetings and you bring up that 80-page document, you'll see, the words in there in that section reflect the chief's view. Now, there's always a debate, if you come to the budget meeting on Monday, which I hope a lot of you will, Tuesday, the succession of budget meetings, there's always a debate between what the council wants and what staff wants and the money requirements, and these are all okay. Like that's, maybe the chief wanted a swimming pool and we're gonna say no, or maybe the chief wanted a firing range and we're gonna say no. Like this is a conversation that we can all have when they come. So.
Thank you. So when we attended the first meeting on January the 8th, I remember, Graham, you spoke about money being spent. I remember that it showed that there was about $600,000 spent. $129,000 went to Fred Muir, who was hired as a consultant. Is that correct? For the police station. And then it was $300,000 for the architect. And then I don't know what that other mere $200 and whatever $1,000 was for, but that's what I remember, a $600,000 price tag that had already been spent. And I'm a little confused. So when we attended that meeting, I got the feeling that all that money being spent was to direct a new police station at Vista Lobos. So that wasn't true. Okay, so that the money spent was to look at all the possible, whether it stayed in the present location or other locations? Yeah, there were 4 options.
It was to assess the current facility and determine what makes up a contemporary police department. That's what the money was spent on. And some of the improvements that we had to make, like the lightning rod,
No, I understand that. What I don't understand is I remember at that meeting that it was, or I interpreted it as going to a direction of Vista Lobos. So that's why I'm trying to clarify so that wasn't so. So the money that has been spent is just general to either improve the present location and to explore other locations. Is that understand? Okay. So that's the amount of money, Graham, that I remember from that meeting that they addressed. And I so appreciate what you had to say about consultants, because when you hire a consultant, he's getting paid, and he also gets paid for staying on the project and watching the project grow. And I think it really helps to have these community meetings that can get a lot more smart people from our community who have a lot of expertise and experience. They might not have built a police station, but they've done a lot of other building. And I think they would have a lot of good things to contribute. And that they definitely need guidelines. There should be a want list and then a wish list. And we should have a budget, and then pricing it out, then we can determine what is available to be spent. And the old plans would really help if we could find the old plans that we've already paid for.
Thank you. so we kind of set. So I think, I guess Dave and I will talk.
I think the question is, we want to have another one of these meetings like this, where we go ahead and get a little more specific about what it is we want.
With the architect.
Yeah, exactly.
With the architect.
Yeah.
You just raise your hand if you want to see the architect.
I think, yeah.
I think I would like to see, frankly, before we see the architect, I'd rather get Paul Tomasi and someone else from the police department here with a list of, what we're describing, and have a conversation with them, what we need, what we don't need, what is essential, what's not, and then we have a conversation with the architect or whoever it is to get real specific. I don't think I'm interested in spending $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to have someone justify their work.
Yeah, so to that, I mean, I think that would sort of short circuit, and not in a bad way, short circuit the requirement to have the architect come visit, have this sort of unplanned meeting. Like if we can sit down as a community with that list, with Paul here and our own in-house experts, and decide what it is, then yeah, that would be a great exercise.
I don't know anyone else feels, but that's.
The only other thing I would say, your comment about you're confused, I'm confused too, but I think one of the confusing factors is that after that January 8th meeting, or just before it, the Pine Cone had a pretty long piece about it. And what I took from the Pine Cone story was we were on a path to a $30 million police station at Vista Lobos. That's what I thought. And I know how to read. I publish books. And that's the impression I got. I don't know if that's the impression he wanted to create or if we didn't give him the straight scoop or whatever. But I think that's kind of what's out there in the ether. And it's clear that that's not the case. We're not there yet. We may never be there. We may be somewhere else. But I think managing the communications to community also, I think, is important. This is a big deal. Just like the Sunset Center redo was a big deal. But the city got behind it, and they did it. We got to get the city behind us and not think, some guy's flying in from Chicago or somewhere and telling us we're going to spend $30 million to build a police station in Vista Lobos. It's going to be Salinas Jr. So I think the suggestion Graham made also, I think, is right on, to have a meeting with, let's bring that spreadsheet you talked about with the requirements that are already spec'd out, have Paul here, and let's just,
Same format.
Yeah, I like it.
But I would add an officer or someone from his, from staff. Yeah. Someone from his staff is to be part of that meeting as well. Paul and an officer from the street. Yeah, because they're the ones that have to live with it, and we want to make sure that we're meeting their needs, in all due respect to Paul.
I just want to make a quick comment. That spreadsheet is online today. It's called the Police Department Needs Assessment. What would be appropriate is to have Paul explain what's required, what's optional. That sounds like a good meeting. But that's online. We're not hiding anything.
So Brandon tells me we have, interrupt for a second, Brandon tells me we have a mailing list of everybody that's interested in the police station project, and we will send out a link to that. We will send out a link, you write this down, to that report, and we will highlight that section of the report, so you can all kind of peruse it at your leisure and see what we have sort of planned by and what we have been talking about. I think Dale.
Councilmember Barron, let me add on to that really quickly. So we have some people that have provided their email address as being interested in this project. As you all know, we have like a listserv on our website. You can sign up for things like the Friday letter. One of those things you can sign up for is the police department building. So some people have signed up for that. We've also got emails from those that went on the tour. But if you're not on one of those two lists, send me an email, go on our website, sign up, come see me today before you leave. If you want to get on the list for when there's things that go out, let us know and we'll add you.
Jeff, that's a great idea, putting a specific link, and you'll email that to the people on this list? Could you add to that links to the prior two studies as Andy's been talking about? Because I'd love to see what design they came up with.
Yeah, what I remember, the things that I remember, and I can't speak for Brandon, but they were in city council meeting staff reports. Like, those are the only things that I've ever seen. So at a minimum, I guess it would include links to those agendas, some of which were sort of before Dave and I, and some of which were, after.
Yeah, you'd think for $150,000, you'd hope there'd be more than just a staff report, but okay, that's great. The more information, the better, I think, at this point.
And if you go to the city website, a lot of these documents are available there. If you I just typed in Carmel Police Department, rebuild or whatever. I forget what the language was, and it will take you to a lot of the documents. My only concern about having the chief come in is that we not get down into the weeds about how many lockers we need in the locker room, and how wide the halls need to be. I mean, a lot of those things are things that architects need to figure out, not us.
Anyone else?
What's our timing?
I'll have to talk to Dave. So we'll try to schedule it a month from now or something like that.
The budget.
Yeah, we're in the middle of the budget, and so I can't give you an answer quite yet. But we'll.
Thoughts and things they want to add on to, we should do those too.
Yeah, email us.
But I'll plug that listserv again. So if you want to come to future meetings, make sure you're signed up on that listserv through our website, or just let us know. Give us your email address before you leave.
So thank you everybody for coming and keeping your comments short and concise and to the point. We both really appreciate it, and we will see you hopefully next time.
Thanks for having me.
I actually don't know who you're talking about. Sorry.